So, who were the Nephilim? Well, apparently they were on the earth in those days. Were they giant angels, human half-breeds, great kings, or something else entirely? And also, plot twist, they show up after the flood too? So either the flood missed a few, or we're understanding the whole story wrong. So let's untangle this without turning the Bible into a sci-fi channel. So Genesis 6:4 says that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. That little phrase, "and also afterward," has caused more headaches than algebra homework. So it's Hebrew word time. The fun kind. Nephilim comes from the word nephal, meaning to fall, right? That's an easy one. It could also mean fallen ones, those who make others fall, and basically like that family member that you didn't invite to that family reunion. We all know who that one is. And then they're also called mighty men of old, men of renown, which in Bible language basically means famous, but not famous in a good way, like famous for being bad. So theory number 1 is the angelic view. When it comes to oldest Jewish interpretations, sons of God equal divine beings. In Jewish thinking, they basically crossed a boundary, which produced Nephilim. This is Michael Heiser's train of thought, and Second Temple scholars say Genesis is telling a cosmic rebellion story. Eden, then rebellion. Genesis 6, rebellion remix. Babel, rebellion trilogy. Humanity keeps hitting that button that says do not push, over and over again. Now, theory number 2 is the Seth versus Cain theory. Now, later Christian view says that sons of God were Seth's line, and daughters of men were Cain's line, and the Nephilim were violent tyrants. Violent tyrants. Say that 3 times fast. Augustine basically said, guys, this is about bad marriages, not heavenly maternity wards. And it fits with the flow. Genesis 4, violence. Genesis 5, godly line. Genesis 6, moral meltdown. No wings required. But then, when they mention sons of God in Job, that actually means heavenly beings. So Genesis is being, well, poetically unhelpful and very unclear. Which brings us to theory number 3, the ancient king view. Some scholars like John Walton say Nephilim were ancient warrior elites, kings who claimed divine ancestry, the original influencers. Think Gilgamesh energy, or hero propaganda, or guys who renamed cities after themselves. You know, the ultimate ancient narcissists. The Bible might be demythologizing that culture. You call them gods, God calls them violent men. And now, the elephant or the giant in the room. The big question, what happened after the flood? Well, Numbers 13 says the spies saw Anakim, Rephaim, and giants. So were these the same as Nephilim? Well, there's 3 main answers to this. Option A is the name became a label. Nephilim may have turned into a nickname for big warriors like Vikings or barbarians. Not biology, just reputation. Option B, hyperbole language. Ancient cultures described enemies as giants, monsters, or terrifying. So the spies even say, we seemed like grasshoppers to them. It's not a medical report per se. That's just scared poetry. Then there's option C. The spiritual theme continues, and this is Michael Heiser's take. The flood resets humanity, but the pattern of rebellion returns. No new angel babies, just the same old human pride wearing bigger armor. And then we have the perspective of the church fathers. Early Christians weren't one voice. Justin Martyr leaned to the supernatural perspective. Augustine leaned towards the human perspective. And Chrysostom focused on moral warning, which means the church never made one Nephilim creed. So if anyone tells you, my view is the only Christian view, you can respond that even the ancients needed coffee to figure this one out. And then we have the Jesus lens. Jesus talks about Noah and says, people were eating, drinking, and merry, ignoring God, not watching out for NBA players with wings. The point wasn't genetics, it was hearts. So Nephilim was a symptom and sin was the disease. Think of a cracked foundation. You can argue about the paint color, the curtains, the furniture, but the real problem is the crack. Nephilim debates are furniture, but human rebellion is the crack. Now, the last question you may be wondering about. Do the Nephilim exist still today? Well, there's no biblical reason that says that Nephilim are just like walking around amongst regular people. Genesis presents them as part of an ancient era of corruption, and the New Testament never tells Christians to watch out for the Nephilim. You know what I'm saying? It tells Christians to watch their hearts, resist sin, and follow Christ. So if someone says Nephilim are secretly running the world today and, hiding, that's not biblical teaching. That's just internet lore. So are the Nephilim a myth? Well, here's the best way to understand it. Genesis is written as theological history. It's not writing to entertain you. It's trying to explain why judgment was necessary, and it's not trying to explain the supernatural world either. So all in all, we'll never really know for sure, but we do have these theories, and you can decide which one you believe on your own. But we do know what the debate is. Angels, tyrants, or legends. We know they were violent, mighty men of old. We know they were pre-flood and later in Canaan again. And we know that boundaries were crossed and pride grew. And scripture warns more than it explains. So maybe the Bible is saying, don't obsess over what kind of monsters they were. Focus more on the mirror, because every generation can create Nephilim of their own without any help from the angels. Up next, we're going to talk about Goliath. Was he a Nephilim descendant? Or just a really tall guy with good cardio? If you like Bible study made fun, stick around. There's more to come.